Hello, guys, and welcome back to another podcast of Pass the Syrup, the estate agency run podcast for estate agents by estate agents. We're here to help you. We're going to unpack some of the waffle floating around the world of estate agency. And every week we're joined by three great guests, always estate agents, suppliers to the industry. I know you're watching this. I know you hear me say it every week. Stop emailing me. You're not allowed on. So three great guests. First up this week, Alexandra Hearn of the Agency UK, one of my favorite estate agency brands in the UK right now. I'm also a massive fan, I'm a fanboy of her, well, I'll say her boss, maybe her boss. She was on episode 1. So Alexandra, based down in Brighton on the south coast, in case you're not sure where that is, everyone. 20 years in agency. Alexandra, 20 years in agency, 22 years getting home from Amsterdam. How are you?
I'm very good today. I'm glad I'm home and comfortable. And
good.
Speaking
lovely
to you,
background. Beautiful background. Love that colour. Very nice.
My favourite room. I've just done it.
Very nice. Yeah, I'm a fan. Yeah, looks good. Really good. Let's lighten this up. So good to have you on. Next up, Mohamed Mohamedali. That I've got to say, Mohamed, that's a mouthful.
I know. If I had £1 for each time I heard that, I wouldn't need to come to work.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I've just fallen straight into that category, haven't I? So 12 years in agency, 11 and a half over here, 9 months setting up Armford Estates, which we just discussed before hitting record, covers North London, North West London, Central London, West London, and maybe Dubai. So a bit of a global operator. Good to have you on. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on. I'm a fan of the show, actually. I mean, I reached out to you because I watched a few of these. So hopefully I can kind of, match the quite high level of enthusiasm and stuff that's been going on. So it's really, I think it's quite nice that you're doing something unique, and it's nice to see it. And if I can support it in any way, I will. So it's great. And thanks for putting a light on our small independent agents, because I think that's what everybody needs. The country's run on them, and a good independent agent, in my opinion, is much better than a massive corporate. But
Ooh,
wow. On the last episode, we had a massive corporate on. I wish they were here right now, because that would have been quite
I would say
fun.
the same thing. Yeah.
No, good for you. No, and it's your opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. I would say there are good agents in every sort of business structure up and down the land. But what an intro from Mohamed. That is the sort of intro I'm looking for. Joe, just so you know, he's a fan of the show. He watches it. He wants to add to it.
Oh my God. Okay,
no pressure here. But Joe Parker, Mrs. Fine and Country Surrey Hills, which are, not Dorking, Surrey Hills. 11 years in agency, part of the Fine and Country network. I'm a bit of a fanboy of Joe as well. We are friends, see each other at everything, been on video together before. That sounds wrong. Joe, how are you?
Yeah, the video was office space, honestly. It really was. So thank you so much for inviting me. I'm really excited. Sorry I couldn't make the last one, but I had other commitments that day. But yeah, I'm a fan of the show. I've watched it. I've had it on all morning, actually. So just to sort of get an idea of what I want to say. And I love the idea of agents collaborating. I don't think we do it enough. I think it's just too much. Putting each other down is just horrible. So thank you very much for doing something about it, Ben.
Well, you are welcome. So Joe, you alluded to the fact that you couldn't come on last time. Agents are really, really good at letting each other down at the last minute. Falls into that stereotype. Believe it or not, occasionally people message 10 minutes before we're due to start filming and say they can't make it. 15 minutes ago, I opened my email, and so I had an email from having thought, oh, he's doing it to us, but he was just sending details through. Thank you very much. And yeah, I'm in complete agreement. There's good opportunities to collaborate, good opportunities to help each other. If we're going to change the consumer sentiment piece around this industry, we've all got to do it collectively. You're only as strong as your weakest spoke. If you're riding a bike,
you also get ideas. You'll grow. You'll develop.
Can I just point out that I wasn't the agent that let you down 10 minutes before when I couldn't make it?
No. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I can see. You know what?
Yeah, you're right. That was Joe. Yeah, I think he was.
Sorry, I asked Joe to step in and help out, and Joe wasn't able to. But yeah, sorry, no, Joe, ultra reliable, Joe.
No shade thrown. Yeah.
Wow, yeah, sorry, that definitely came out wrong, and I apologise for that, Joe. Don't want you to get a reputation. Joe is a reliable estate agent. So, right, I'm waffling. So let's try and move this conversation forward. We are going to start, as we always do, with the current issue or an issue presented by Sam Offley of Agents Together. Agents Together is a mentor-mentee charity set up to support the estate agency world. If you feel like you could benefit from a mentor, it's a free service. Reach out to Sam. His details will be below, and he'll hook you up. If you've been in agency a while and you think you could add value and you could help others, and I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic activity, very wholesome, makes you feel genuinely good about yourself, helping other people. If you don't do it enough, give it a go. Reach out and talk to him about being a mentor. So let me present Sam's mentee's current issue, and you guys can give us some feedback on suggestions.
Hello, Pastor Syrup guests. Now, my question for you this week is, as estate agents, we're out and about all the time doing appointments. So what could we be doing that's really productive in between those appointments?
Personally, I've got my mobile with me all the time. So my emails, my, access to my database, everything's there if you want to have a quick call with someone. I think you just, as an agent, need to have modern tech and availability to have your database, and you can always be catching up with solicitors and speaking to people in the area.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone says they don't have their phone with them, I'm just going to call bullshit on that right now.
Yeah,
there's
100%.
always access. Yeah, 100%. So, do you schedule calls between appointments?
No, I tend to do my emails between appointments, but I will obviously be able to respond to people. But I also find it in an area where I will just drop a quick line to a potential seller going, I've just done a viewing in the house around the corner from you. How are you getting on? Just made me think of you, and just little things like that.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I'm in your area. I was thinking of you. I've just done something around the corner.
Yeah.
That goes down really, really well. It's a Tom Ferry classic. Yeah, that's a great idea. That everyone could bring into their day. Mohamed, what do you think?
Yeah, I often find that when people ask me where am I based, I mean, my car is like my second office, so I'm always driving around, I'm always going from appointment to appointment. And I think the phone calls and speaking to people while you're out, I also find it, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but when you're driving around, things come to you and it's a bit kind of therapeutic just to be talking to somebody. Then you kind of think about, I need to speak to somebody else. And then you usually kind of just back to back on phone calls. And before you know it, you reach your destination, which might be 50, 60 minutes away, depending on where you're going. So I think it's helpful. I mean, I'm the other way around from Alexandra, is I'll do my emails towards the end of the day, because a lot of the work I'll do is phone work during the day, which hopefully saves me time where I might not even need to email. It's a much shorter conversation. You can get much more of an instant reply, maybe avoiding having 5 or 6 emails, but that's just my style.
Yeah, I mean, so I used to do a lot of appointments. Now I cycle to the office. Long story short, my car was stolen. It's been a long issue dealing with it. It's now resolved, but I've decided to stick with the bicycle, which basically means I don't get out of the office to make those phone calls. And I miss making those phone calls, the 40 minutes home, 40 minutes back, or between appointments. And I find, that I find that's the only thing I miss from driving, is making those phone calls during that dead time.
Not the same when you're on a bike, heavy breathing, is it? When you're like going uphill.
Not quite well.
Sounds a bit wrong.
Yeah, I mean, some
But
people
you're
are into
visible
it,
on a
Joe.
bike. That's good.
Some people quite like it. Each to their own. What about you, Joe? What do you recommend for between appointments?
For Mohamed and Alexandra, we at Fine & Country, I think the one close by, have a beautiful magazine called Refined. Okay, we have a beautiful magazine. So if I've been at a viewing or a market appraisal and I'm close to somebody who I am, nurturing, I'll drop a copy in and knock on the door. Otherwise, occasionally I'm not as good as I should be at this, but if I've done a market appraisal, then I will door knock with a magazine or a market report and say, I've just been doing a market appraisal. Don't know whether you know anybody who wants to move into the area, or we're putting a house on the market, those kind of things. Oh, I've just done a viewing, and we've got more people than we can, who are interested in this house. Are you interested in putting your house on the market? That kind of thing. So making use of houses either side of houses that I visited, or people that I'm nurturing, I'll pop in or throw something through the letterbox if they're not there.
I mean, that is sort of bread and butter for us. Every single appointment is an opportunity to find the next letter of business. Door knocking, the communications. The other thing we have our team do is one final thing, is if they are out an appointment and between appointments involves a couple of hours and it doesn't make sense to come back, encourage them to go to somewhere, some sort of hospitality location, so a coffee shop, maybe somewhere, a restaurant, and talk shop and do business in there and try and have your regular spot in each town so you get known by the people that work there. That, it doesn't, you don't see direct returns on that investment, but we're certain it creates additional leverage and good opportunities.
But it's good to be visible, I think.
Say that again, Alexandra.
It's good to be visible. Like, I own my high street. I walk up and down it. I buy from my high street. They know who I am.
100%. Yeah. And people like that. People want to see you available and that they can see you around. And like you said, if you go to a local coffee shop, you'll make a relationship with the barista, you'll speak to them, you'll speak to regulars there. And even if it's not direct business, I think indirectly it might lead to something. And people tend to feel more comfortable with someone that they feel like they know, even if it's a few times meetings. So I think 100% that's the most underrated advert. It's just going in.
You don't find that slightly difficult, Mohamed, in such a big area? So, like, I've got 5 postcodes in the Surrey Hills, and so to be regular in all places means that I will be consistently eating or drinking coffee somewhere.
But I think you pick your core postcode and work out. So where do you
100%.
have your best bit of business and then work out?
Yeah, I had a friend, funny enough, who had a slightly different style and did it, I think, perfectly. Is he used to go to a specific place and say to the owner, look, I'm going to spend X amount a week here. I want to be able to bring clients and stuff here. And they had such a good relationship that he almost had like a tab there. So it was great because the client comes in, has coffee, have lunch, and sort of quite impressed with the fact that they almost kind of know everybody in the coffee shop. You know, you get good service, you get the best table, and all these things.
Oh, yeah. When people say hi to you, it sort of endorses yourself, doesn't it? As a good person.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, Joe, to your question though, I think you need to go hyper specific and say, I can't be eating and drinking coffee all day, every day. But whenever I'm in that area, I will visit that coffee shop. I will have one. Well, exactly. I mean, yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm on the bike. But if you can pop in, if you can spend an hour there, and I genuinely think the value is you build the relationship. That's fine, but the value is being in there for an hour or two and having conversations and allowing the general public to hear you having conversations about property and let them know who you are and what you are. The point everyone's sort of made is the familiarity piece is just so valuable. People buy brands they're familiar with. They buy into brands. So when I say brand, it could be personal brand, it could be you, it could be a business. Yeah. If I say to you, what's your favorite cola? Most people just think of one of two, Coca-Cola or Pepsi, because you're so familiar with that brand, with programmed to see it. They're everywhere, right? So when you think about your agent, a lot of the time people are thinking about an agent that they're familiar with. And there's so much value in, the people hearing you have that conversation saying, who's that? Or, you're dropping, your agency UK or Finding Country, whatever it might be. I think that's so valuable. It's overlooked as an opportunity. I now try and do 1 day a week working from my gym, which has got a nice workspace. But because there's so many people in there that are prospective clients.
And it's networking, isn't it?
Yeah. The peace and quiet of not being around the team is golden.
So much done.
so much more. Okay, lovely. Sam, I hope that helps. Mentees, over to you. Get on the phone, buy some coffee. That's it. Right, we are going to get into our main sort of news piece. So it's everybody's favorite. We're going to talk about Rightmove, but actually we're not really talking about Rightmove. We're talking about some of their data. The Rightmove House Price Index was released last week, or depending on when you're watching this, maybe 2 weeks ago. And it's some interesting data. When I say interesting data, this many people find it interesting. The rest of the world don't care. But I'll paraphrase what they published and what they told us. So in August, asking prices rose, headline, by 0.4%. There goes the headline. That represents £1,386. So asking prices are up a whopping £1,300. Crazy. Now, what they state is that this rise is actually lower than usual. What was buried, which I found interesting, is that the usual rise is 0.6%. So we got a 0.4, it's actually 0.6. The way this piece was reported was that prices are rising, but they're not rising anywhere where they normally would. Prices are not doing what they usually would. What I found really interesting is since 2001, there's actually been 3 occasions in August when prices reduced. So since 2001, there's been 3 considerably worse markets, I think it might be fair to say.
Definitely.
Annual price change is now currently sitting at minus 0.4%. So that's asking prices year on year are down less than 1%. This is headline grabbing stuff, guys.
Very small margins though.
Price drops are the highest they've been since January 2011. Now, there may be something there. 36% of properties are currently on the market having had a significant price reduction. So the average is sitting at 6.2%, which is just over £22,000, which, yeah, there is something there. There's something meaty around that. Sales agreed are down 18% versus August 2019, which is not, doesn't necessarily directly correlate to new asking prices in August, but bit of context. First time buyer market, so this is 2 beds and smaller properties, is the best performing sector. This doesn't make for good reading though. The best performing sector is still down 13% versus 2019. First week of September, new instructions, new properties to the market are up 12% versus the August average. I can't believe I even said it. That, did you know the sky is blue? And the 5-year fixed rate currently mortgage, they make a point of referencing that it's dropped, and it's dropped, the rate on offer is dropped consecutively for the last 5 weeks. So the point they're trying to make right at the very end of the piece is they're trying to offer some positivity. More properties coming to the market, interest rates reducing, fixed rate mortgages 5-year down last 5 weeks. Guys, is this headline, or is it just, Rightmove, people click, they open it, they want to know what Rightmove is saying? What do you reckon?
I feel like it's
Alex?
Yeah, they're just talking very small margins. So they're sensationalist headlines like, oh my God, they've dropped or they've risen. But there's such small margins. And I feel like it's, well, for us in Brighton, it's been quite a stable market.
Okay.
But the reductions are because agents are still overvaluing when they are putting a property on the market, because it's the only way they perceive they can get a property on the market is by telling the seller what they want to hear, not what they should be hearing. It's a total lack of education.
So so stable market. So this is why I think this podcast is most valuable, because we're getting genuine on the ground. This is what's happening in my market, as opposed to national housing market picture, which completely distorted. So Brighton is, you would describe as stable market conditions.
Yeah.
Is that sort of the last year?
That would, yeah. I think, obviously we had that initial drop when the previous Prime Minister managed to make a little bit of a mistake. Yeah, and that did mash it. But since then, I feel like we've had a stability in the market. We haven't had any great falls. And the properties that have struggled, it's because they've had their own anomalies, like they've been with commercial opposite pubs and stuff like that. And they were never going to get the same price as a terraced house anyway.
Yeah. And you've still got that issue in Brighton, because Brighton's a busy marketplace. Brighton's got a lot of agents down there. The age-old classic, agents are still overvaluing.
100%. They're going high with their low fees, and then then we see a ridiculous amount of reductions because the market's not there to support it.
And so, would you? I mean, it's anecdotal. We don't have to be data driven, but would you say so? Currently, national picture is 1/3 of all properties have had a significant reduction. In Brighton, same? Do you reckon more? Do you reckon less?
Oh, it's hard. I would say slightly less, because we're very lucky with the low inventory market, so things have sold.
Okay.
And they have kept the prices, some of the more popular, marketplace, which is like the 500 to 600,000, has managed to, that just shifts. That's quite quick and easy to sell.
Okay. Mohamed, what about your, so sorry, you said if you had £1 for every time someone said it's a mouthful. If I had £1 for every time someone said on this show, agents overvaluing with their low fees, every single episode it gets said. It's a real issue.
It's a national issue for sure. Yeah, I think it's unfortunate because I've worked in different areas and seen that it happens all the time. And unfortunately, maybe sometimes bigger the agent, the more they kind of incentivize almost to do that. Just get the disruption on, get the property on, and then maybe chip away and reduce. And that seems to be a strategy which I think maybe did used to work, but I think now going in and telling somebody what they want to hear is just you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So I think it's always best to value as honestly as possible and use comparables. It's less opinion based, in my opinion, and based on what you can actually sell for, what's sold in the last 3 months, what's selling at the moment, and where they are. So yeah, I think price reductions is definitely an issue, but there's 2 ways of looking at it. If you're a first time buyer looking to buy somewhere, the debt is expensive to borrow at the moment, so you might be sort of put off by a headline like that. But if you're a cash buyer or an investor, you'll say, great, I can get better value now on asking prices. So it's kind of, it depends who the article is aimed at, but it's a news grabbing headline. It's a national headline. And as we all know, is every market is localized. You know, to say the market's up or the market's down is, how can you say that on a national level? Because every little area has its own localized market.
Yeah, and let me give you a crazy example, just real quick. So one of the areas we cover across our business is a place called Chiswick in West London, affluent area, really nice area.
Yeah, we cover Chiswick. Yeah, Chiswick.
No,
Chiswick
stay out of Chiswick, Mohamed. Look, we're
Boy,
friends.
don't
we're
like
on a
competition, Ben.
Yeah, before we're working together. Yeah.
So we did the analysis for August. Now, we don't normally do the analysis in this way. We don't dig as deep as this, but I wanted to sort of make a point to the team in training a couple of weeks ago. For every property that came to the market, 107% sold in August, or 109%. So what I'm saying is for every 100 listings, 109 sold. I've never experienced a market like that in Chiswick. Now we're looking at properties priced above $1 million because that's our sort of market segment. But to your point, every micro market in the UK behaves differently to another. And within every micro market, you've got subsections. You've got the first time buyer market. You've got the upsides, your downsides, your £1 million plus, your £3 million plus, whatever it might be, the ultra prime. To cast one net over everything, this is what's happening. It's absolutely crazy. And I think it fuels the confusion for agents out there, because jump on the trade press right now and you'll find 6 stories that contradict each other. You know, right now, the market's challenging compared to the last 2 years. I mean, personally, 20 years in a estate agency, I don't see the market as challenging. I see it I would use very different language. But if you are a consumer and you are reading the Rightmove house price index and it says property marketing prices are up, don't you think your property is worth more than it was last month?
Yeah, and that's the problem. So then when an agent comes in and tells you, like we said, is because we all work kind of as a live feed, we can tell you what's happening today, right now in the current market. Something like that Rightmove article is a little bit behind. It's sort of maybe 2-3 months behind, depending on what information they're giving out to people. So you're going in there and you're kind of ahead of the curve and you're saying, look, this is what we think is going to happen. This is what's good. Oh, but I'm reading this article and it's telling me something that happened previously, because it's based off past data as opposed to currently this is what's happening live. That's always the issue with kind of media and managing that. So that's again, when you go into an instruction, like Alexandra said, is you're fighting the local agent who's half your price and twice your asking price. And then you've got a media article backing up everything you're saying. What I'm going to say, Rightmove's wrong. I mean, it's just like it's a battle at both sides.
I mean, it's challenging out there. The conditions mean that you've got to be on your absolute best, as opposed to, I'm just going to throw it on and see what happens. Joe, in your area of the world, what's going on? What's your take on what Rightmove's presenting? And is that what you're experiencing on the ground?
So I have the same issue. Stack them high, sell them cheap from some of my, or sell them, stack them high, price them high, low fee, and then work it down from the minute you get it on the market strategies. Every Monday I get to have a Zoom call with the wonderful John Hanford, who is he's so good at being an estate agent. He pays attention to, he's attention to detail man, isn't he, Ben? And he's one of our trainers, and I get an hour with him in a group every Monday. And yesterday he was talking about pricing strategies and how, as a consumer, you go out to people's houses and they think their house is worth more for whatever reason. They are behind on the times. They've read something else because sellers always take a while to catch up with buyers.
They're optimistic. They work on a lag.
Yeah,
and they're
absolutely.
But they also love their house, don't they? If they love it so much.
Everybody else's house is overvalued except mine.
Of course.
Yeah.
I've got mine is the biggest one in the block. They are all the same size.
And I've invested £100,000 on a kitchen or whatever it might be. So, like Ben, I am at the higher price point, £1 million plus. But John Hanford did an exercise with a client who wanted to put their house on the market for 2.25 million. And it's about pricing strategy anyway, not about value. But he was saying, look, at £2 million, if one of your buyers had 500,000, £500,000 as a deposit, they've still got 75% mortgage to pay. What do you think that mortgage payment is per month? And they were like, well, 4,000, 7,000. Actually, £9,418. £9,418. Okay, so if you go in and do it too high, they can't. It's not that they won't. They can't consider you. If you think about what the stamp duty costs are, the moving costs are, and you price your house too high, people aren't coming in. And so it's like break it down. But yeah, pricing is always going to be a bit of a challenge, and people are scared to price low. Well, Ben, you've done it successfully. You price lower than the market, what you think market, you and the client think the market value are, and you actually end up getting more. But they are,
Yeah, definitely.
Other agents are not good at that. And
I like to do guide prices, and then you get a busy open day, and the idea is you get a couple of buyers that will fight each other out, and you end up getting more than expected.
Yeah. I mean,
but clients don't hear higher prices from somewhere else, read higher prices from something else, and therefore aren't prepared to take that gamble. But the gamble actually is, it's like you wait for a unicorn, don't you?
It's a cultural thing, though, isn't it? So if we want the consumer to come with us on the journey, it's going to take time. You know, we're very, very comfortable at the offers over proposition, and we would probably go to market anywhere between 10 and 15% offers over below what we think the actual achievable price is. Like Alexandra said, that creates a much stronger open day or a launch event. You create the additional competition, and then you find people outbidding each other. We've got instances where one person's been bidding against themselves because it's been a really busy launch event, and they've made the assumption that there are a whole load of people interested in purchasing, and they've driven themselves up. That happens. But that's, it's not just a case of, okay, well, look, everyone, we're just going to do that now. I've got a story from today in another one of our territories. The head of the territory has been out to value the property. It's been on for a few months. It's at the wrong price. So it's currently marketed at a guide of 2.7. He thinks the value is around 2.5 to 2.6 at a push. So he suggested we go offers over, we reduce the price by this, and this will get more impetus into the property. And the consumer said, well, look, I like it. I like where your head's at. I like the offers over. Let's go offers over 2.7.
We're already there.
I think you've sort of missed. You're not coming on the journey with me here. You're currently on a guide of 2.7. You haven't had a single offer in 4 months. We need to realise that. Well, you got, and this is not a Fine & Country plug, but he said, guys, aspirational brand, you're going to get more money for me. And that's the balance, isn't it? You've really got to find that balance and not oversell, and you have to pull it back and rein it in a little bit. But back to originally.
But controversially, on the opposite side, information like that, price hikes, mortgage hikes, the fear mongering that we have is like you're stopping people from, one, buying, and two, coming to market as well. So there is that. I don't know how many times you have heard recently, I'm going to wait till spring. It's like, well,
I think it's getting much better as spring.
All I can say on that is, I've probably heard that for 20 years as well. That's the common, we'll look at it next year, or, I'm not that engaged. They're the people that are sort of, I would just describe as less motivated. There's not a need in their life right now, and things can change, and circumstances can change, and suddenly they call you in November and say, we need to do it right now. But maybe there's a bit more of it right now. There's less, we're thinking about a move, we'll give it a go. On the last podcast, Kesha Foss-Smith said she likes the market right now because you're dealing with more serious people. The people that are selling, there's a need, there's a requirement, and so they're more serious about pricing structure and getting themselves sold, and they'll take advice on marketing strategy. And the buyers that are viewing, there's not so many tie kickers. And I'm inclined to agree with her in that respect. There's less volume, but the conversion rate is probably higher. Are you guys seeing that as well?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think so. I mean, another thing that the article failed to mention is what kind of buyers are these? Are these the end users? Are these cash buyers, buy-to-let investors? And are they in a chain, or are they chain free? Because that's important as well. Because as we know, properties are taking potentially longer to sell if someone's in a longer chain, so you could maybe get more money that way. But if you're willing to be realistic, like you said, because buyers are more realistic now and sellers are more realistic because they have a need to sell, things are happening maybe a little bit quicker. So that's also correct. Yeah, I agree.
So the point you made earlier, Mohamed, was people living in the past. We think that the consumer is much more interested in hearing from an up-to-date economist who's got a specialism in marketing than a historian. We find quite often people are out valuing properties and they're referencing what happened a year ago or 2 years ago. And as you mentioned, Joe, the consumers always got the best in the road, the biggest in the road, the best in the block. They've always done the refurb. There's always the most expensive. where I tend to defend agents here is that it's difficult for us to break the consumer's heart. It's difficult to say, I appreciate your home is X, and here's the data that supports that your pricing is out by 10% or 15%, or in some cases, extreme cases, 20%. And I empathize with the agent that doesn't have maybe the experience, the ability, or the backing of maybe the brand and the business to push that to the right price. I really do empathize with them, because maybe they're KPI'd to just get the instruction and then they get a bad rep. I think right now, I honestly think from a listing perspective, challenging is a really great term, because there's so much confusing data out there. And as a red, if someone came to value my home, I would give you a torrid time, because there's so many things that say the market's doing really, really well right now. Why should I be coming to market at less? Obviously, I'm not actually that guy. I am an estate agent. I do know what's going on. I would be realistic, I hope. Let's not put that to the test. But, so what I'm going to ask you guys is, because we've got through the news piece quite quick, advice to agents that are dealing with consumers that don't know what's going on. So Mo, you already mentioned about bringing comparables and recent comparables. That's great. What else? What else should agents be doing right now when they're valuing a property to justify the correct price? Because we know data shows properties priced correctly sell in an average of 40 to 50 days. If they have to have a price reduction, it jumps to between 80 to 90 days, almost twice as long. So the value is in getting the price right now and justifying to the consumer. Any advice you can offer?
I think understanding who your end target market is going to be. So what they're looking for amongst what they want to pay for the property. So you understand who your buyers are, potentially have a list of potential buyers and see what their budget is for a house that you're about to value. Because ultimately it's only worth what someone's going to pay for it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that you've got that understanding of what the current market wants to pay for it.
And so that comes down to, that thing that we used to do in estate agency where we hit the phone and do a call out and speak to your applicants all the time about what they're looking for and what they've seen. The last couple of years, from what I'm told, that doesn't happen so much anymore. But if you know your buyers inside out, then it makes your life so much easier for that valuation piece.
You only need about 5 or 6, but you've done a bit more research. And I think that helps you when you're on the appointment anyway, to have a more in-depth conversation with your seller so that they can then understand the true value of your valuation and understand how you've got to it, and ultimately win the instruction because you're more knowledgeable.
Yeah, completely agree. Joe, what do you reckon? Any advice you could offer?
So, ask more questions. Okay, so we're all very guilty of going, bleh, here's all the information. Blah, look at this. This is what we do. This is what I do. This is what the market is. Blah blah blah. But actually, if you ask more questions, you'll get more buy-in, because if they have to think about the answers. So it's quite. I can't think of any questions now, but it'd be things like, what do you think, or what do you believe when you see a house that's been on the market for 80 days? What do you think about that house? And they'll think, well, it's overpriced, or there's something wrong with it. And you say, so what do you think, or is there how do you think they might have been able to play that differently? What would you think of that house that's priced at 2 million was actually priced at 1.75 million, offers in excess of? Would you think, well, that's cheap, must go and see it? Those kind of questions that would actually get some buy-in for them to stop and think, rather than shoot information at them that they may not hear because they don't want to.
You're so right. Yeah. If you're prescribing to people, there's only so much they're going to listen to. If you engage their grey matter, if you force them to answer a question they don't want to answer, no one wants to answer a difficult question. What would your strategy be to sell this property that's been on the market for 3 months and it's on the same road as you and it's actually 50 grand less than you want to sell for?
Yeah.
What would you do with that one? That is a painful question for the consumer to answer. But it gets you the result. It's great.
And what would you expect your agent to do? Would you expect your agent just to list it and leave it and put it on the market, put up a board and pray?
Or it'll sit there like an ornament. Yeah, that's the problem. No, I think to add to that, I think both of you made sort of valid points. I think you just need to understand, you need to recognize your community, you need to recognize your client and their needs. I think it goes back to kind of old school agency, where when the market's strong and things are busy, I guess it's a little bit more easier because things are moving so fast. But because now things are a little bit more challenging, you have to slow it down a little bit and really think about your marketing strategy, and you need to know who you're speaking to. So you need to know what what your client's personal needs are, and that way they'll build a better rapport with you and ultimately trust you and engage with you to do what's best for them. That's the key thing, because unfortunately as agents, it's all about I, but sometimes people forget that actually it's the client. Their needs are the most important. Forget about commission and myself, and I could talk about myself all day long, but that's the idea, which I think is kind of old school agency. So,
I mean,
experts like yourself.
You're absolutely right. The agent, a bit anecdotal here. I think thinks about themselves first. How does this impact me? How do I get the best result? What's best for me? And if you get into the detail, so Ian McKenzie, head of the guild, fantastic agent. I like him. He knows his stuff. Absolutely 100%. Always talks about context. So when you're working with a new client, you need to get into the nuts and bolts, not just about their property, but what's the onwards look like? What are they trying to achieve? Where do they want to go? Where do they want to take it to? And no matter what you're going to need to do on your home, be it slightly less than you're anticipating, you're going to feel the benefit of that with the onwards as well. And so, Joe, you talked about breaking down the numbers, and from a data perspective, sometimes it is about that, in tapping into logic. I know anyone who's been an agency for a while will say it's an emotion-driven decision. After 10 minutes, they love you or they don't. You've got them from an emotional perspective. You've either won them or you've lost them. Once you're dating, get into the logic, get into the real raw numbers and break it down for them. I always like the context of the market is here, and it's down 4% year on year nationally. We could talk about the specifics, but you've made 17% in the last 2.5 years. Next year, you think it's going to be above 17 or below 17? Okay, then let's get to market right now. Framing where we are. People don't want to sell. I'm going to look at it in spring. You mentioned that earlier on. I think I'll go to market in spring.
But when everyone else is.
So there'll be more choice available. Exactly. There'll be more choice available. So actually it will affect your value negatively.
And what are we expecting? Property prices to increase in spring? Is that the idea? Is that where you see things right now?
It's not a given, is it? Yeah.
Because if you're upsizing and you expect prices to increase, you better get on with doing it right now, because you make a loss on an upsize. So there's so many ways of framing it. One piece of advice I would say to agents out there right now, if you're struggling with pricing, and as it happens, I will be the first to admit, some of the properties we work on, we really struggle to price. They're very niche, they're very different. There's not a lot of comparable data. It can be really tricky. And I mean, to the point where we could be £1 million out. And right now you guys are thinking they're incompetent. I'm not kidding. Sometimes it is tough. So what we'll do is do an off-market, not a launch, nothing crazy. It will literally let us bring round, a little bit like Alexandra just said, line up your, talk to your 6 best buyers. We'll arrange to bring 3 to 5 round who we know are serious. They're not time wasters. They're not going to say silly numbers. And one may end up buying it off market. But from genuine feedback, because we've been working for a long time, some of our buyer journeys last 3 years of our business, so we get to know them quite well. We'll be able to help with pricing through 3 to 5 serious buyers, because it can be tricky out there. And in a downwards moving market, you might find the best decision for the client is to not go to market. And that will hurt so much. But I can't stress it enough. Anyone we've ever said do not go to market right now has always come back.
They will, and you can advise them as well if they need to get a certain amount of money for their property. You can always give them hints and tips of what they could do to improve, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so they
absolutely.
Obviously, Mohamed, you've got it sorted. You've got a maintenance company to.
So I started the agency to try and kind of bring it all under one roof, because I thought that was quite niche. I don't really know anyone that's doing that. I saw a bit of a gap, and I thought, well, I work for a traditional agency, and we've always outsourced our property management, but why don't we just get a team of people ourselves and make it so it's a service-based industry, and it's ultimately about what the client is best for them, and that's the best thing. I can keep costs down, I can keep quality high, and it's all under one roof. That's kind of that's why I've done what I've done. But I think just touching on what you said, I think it's important to have that level of service. And I think agents forget that. They go in and they're always worried about what another agent said or what another agent's done. But I think you have to back yourself and be bold and be confident and say, look, this is what I can do and this is my style. And as we know, it's a long-term game. If you continue to communicate and you continue to get to know your client, they'll feel more comfortable with you, rather than you're just a kind of in a suit and you're a bit scary and a bit corporate.
Also, we've got to be adult here, and we don't want to work with everybody, because we only
Not all
want to work with
business
the
is
people
good
that want to
business.
work with us.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Just on your business model, Mohamed, I think I really, really like it, because I think, especially at the current market conditions, the consumers getting you out to value their home, they're not so sure about the price. We're not going to upsize. Cost of a new mortgage is not where we want to be. Let's put a loft on and stay where we are.
Yeah.
Quite often they're those two journeys, aren't they? Should we, what's the Phil and Kirsty show? Love it or list it. We can upgrade or we can sell, and you're providing both services. I think you've hit a really great niche.
Yeah, because I had so many times clients say to me, like, I don't want to deal with it. I work full time. So many clients said, I've got my full-time career, I've got a wife and children, and I don't want to think about any aspect of it. Effectively, I want to hand over the keys to you, and just, can you get on with it, please? So I'm calling them saying, I've got another quote from another plumber. Should I send the third? It all becomes like they're still managing their property indirectly. Mm-hmm. So at least this way, this is kind of a complete hands-off service where they get the peace of mind, and you get the full, the way to show that you can give the full package to them. So I think that's the hopefully that will be, in a year's time, I'll be here telling you how successful it's been. So,
we'll have you back on in a year. We'll see. Hopefully, fingers crossed for you. But no, I think it's a great. Thanks. I remember watching a Chris Watkins interview with somebody from Dataloft, and they talked about what they think, they think the estate agency world might move. Dataloft, really great data source, worth looking at if you're an estate agent. We talk a lot about national housing statistics. They can give it on a local level for you, which is some really brilliant stuff. And they put it in a very visual, easy, palatable way to sort of review. And she spoke about the future of estate agency possibly being a one-stop shop. And so under one, maybe not on the high street, maybe in an industrial sort of space, or shopping centres in further afield, you'd have an estate agent, a letting agent, a property manager. You'd have a building contractor, you'd have a mortgage advisor, you'd have furniture, you'd have everything property related under one roof. Mm-hmm. So if someone says, right, we need to do something for the house this week, they just go to one shop and they can get everything they need. And that really sparked. It's such a clever idea that I never have to go anywhere else. And also when I'm buying furniture, look at that property that's on the market. You're just capturing eyes. I think it's a great idea. So I wish you the best of luck. I think you're going to do really well.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So Rightmove House Price Index, where I've landed based on what you guys have said, headline grabbing, it's confusing out there. The role of the agent is to be, Alexandra, I'm going to steal your name on LinkedIn, the Oracle.
Thank you.
Good name. I like it. I like it. My wife is the other Oracle that I know.
She knows everything, does she?
Yeah. But obviously
she's watching this, is she?
Yeah. Well, no. So she watched the first few, and then I realised about episode 6, I was saying things she wasn't picking up, so I can say what I want now. I think the role of the agent, as we all know, and things said quite often, is to be the expert, be up to date, give great advice, honest advice. And I noticed Watkins stole this line the other day, but actually I stole it from Joe Parker in Wales. Being the first choice second agent is a great place to be. Parry, Joe Parry. What did I call him?
Joe Parker.
Oh, I'm looking. Bloody hell.
You're looking at the screen. It's okay.
Wow, this is so intense.
Just edit this out. Edit this out. It's fine.
No. Just to credit everything to me. It's fine.
Everything is Joe Parker. First choice second agent is a great place to be, and I love that position, because the consumer is ready to be a little bit more realistic. And if you're honest and you're genuinely honest and you've got the price right, the chances are they're going to go to market and come back. You just got to be very careful about how you manage that olive branch to ensure you don't scare them away. Okay, guys, lovely. What have we done? Social hand grenade. Let's get on to our. So this is less of a hand grenade and more of a. I just really liked it. So it's. I don't normally show who's who's created the post, but this is Pete Wilkinson. If anyone, he does a lot of stuff in the estate agency world. For me, he's pound for pound one of the best trainers out there. He's big on getting shit done. We had him do a lot with our previous business. Really great coach. And he actually, in this post, references my favorite book. So how could I not throw this out there? I'm going to share it with you guys and then get your feedback on it. But it's a highly positive one as opposed to a spiky one this week. You'll be pleased to know. Pete Wilkinson, passionate about helping people. I've always been a goal setter and goal achiever. I can confirm he is that guy. I believe in goals. I'm always learning and open to new ideas. Listening to James Clear and his Atomic Habits audiobook to get me thinking. So Atomic Habits I cannot recommend it enough.
I'm reading it at the moment.
Brilliant.
I've got it on. It's on my bedside table at the moment.
Once a year, change your life.
Yeah.
If you're struggling with doing the right things at the right time, will change your life. To continue with the post, James said, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Oh, so good. So my focus this morning is to review my systems for reaching my goals. I do reading, listening, and studying. Every time I do some sort of coaching or mentoring with other businesses, I always talk about my favorite businesses, my favorite books. Atomic Habits is such a great book. If you're watching this podcast and you've never read it or listened to it, just that, and you take one thing away, do that. It's such a great example of a book that's got good anecdotes. It's got good data. It's got proof of theory and how you can change your life with building great habits. Because everyone starts a race trying to win. It's the habits around training before the race which often determine whether you win. So, guys, I appreciate this is quite difficult for you guys to answer because it's not a spiky one where you can just give your opinion. Habits. You guys good with habits, bad with habits? Enjoy? No? Yes?
I think everything's discipline based. I think if you can do something every day, for example, the gym is the easiest example. So even if you don't feel good and you feel rubbish and you feel tired and you don't want to do it and your body's sore, if you can do that every day or 5 days a week or 4 days a week or whatever your goal is, that will increase your ability to do everything else well as well, because discipline is doing something even when you don't want to do it, you still do it. That's discipline. That's the difference.
100%.
That's the difference between, I think, being successful in your personal life, your work life, everything. It's a complete domino effect. So if you can get that right, if you can get your own habits and your own system in place, which works for you, and still do it even if you don't want to do it, that I think is the key, the life hack.
Discipline, doing things
Absolutely.
even when you don't want to.
I'd say so. I like things like people often, board knocking is a great example. Everyone doesn't really like doing it, but if you just get it done, have that little slot in the diary every week and have it done, it becomes routine. And before you know it, you will start to see the results from it and it'll be all worthwhile. It's those that let things go, they get disorganized and then things become too much and they don't have a clear way to move forward. I think unless you work in an office where you have someone managing you, people like us that are freelance and entrepreneurial, we need to be self-disciplined and self-manage.
Yeah,
has to be in the diary every day. Done
in the diary. You just can't put. There's just not enough value you can place on having a well-structured diary.
Time block.
Do what you need to when you need to, and hold yourself to account on your diary. If you hold yourself to account, things get done. But that's such a great example. Door knocking. Probably the least popular activity in the world of estate agency, and in our business it has provided the strongest return on investment for the last 4 years of any activity we could have done.
I think everyone's business is the same. You have to do it, and those that don't do it, you certainly within the agency, we've seen the difference between those that do and don't.
Get it done.
It's the only way.
How are you finding Atomic Habits? I can't believe you're reading it right now. That's
I love it. I love it. So I took it on holiday with me. I had 2 books, so Atomic Habits and The One Thing by Gary Keller from, where's he from? Keller Williams. Sorry, clue in the title. And my other half hadn't bought a book, and I said, "I've got a book for you." He's really fussy, not going to read it. And he's getting so bored. I went, "Just read the book," and he loved it. He loved Atomic Habits. Really enjoyed it, and actually has signed up to James Clear's weekly newsletter as well.
Really good.
So I like taking it back before the goals in terms of becoming the person who does that. In terms of so I don't know, as an agent, and I'm probably the only agent in the whole world that has negative self-talk. I know I'm isolated
No,
here.
you're not. I promise you.
Everyone is the same, Joe. You know that.
I promise.
I do. It's like
same boat.
I know. The thing is, though, I know that if I start the day on negative, it's not good. So what I wanted to do, and what I've now started to do because of James, is to put it in the diary. So I normally do a workout in the morning, and then I have breakfast, and then I shower. So, but in between breakfast and showering, I now meditate. So I now do a small 10, 15-minute guided meditation, put me in a better frame of mind, or put me in the frame of mind that I want to be in order to face my day. Because I mean, I don't always wake up in a shitty mood, but sometimes if you had a bad day the day before, you know, like, oh my God. I mean, I do have a bipolar relationship with this job. I love it. And sometimes I think,
But
oh
the
my
lows
God,
really hit you, don't they? Yeah.
oh my God, I can't do this job.
The
when
bad
something's
days are like
gone
really
bad.
bad. Yeah. The
Yeah.
highs are high, but the lows are really low. Yeah.
But it's
the
good
lows are
to
horrible.
verbalise
sleep
your
as well.
gratitudes, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
sleep
absolutely.
is so key. You know,
Yes.
that'll change.
So
If you manage your
it's
sleep
becoming
well,
the person that does it, isn't it? It's becoming the person. So I am the person that goes to the gym. I am now.
That's good. And you're manifesting success that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am now the person that meditates before the day starts to get into a good place. So yeah, I could be the person that door knocks.
So yeah, but so I don't know if you've got this far in the book, but James says, don't say I need to go for a run. Think of yourself as someone that takes health seriously. So you know,
Who's
you're
a
not
runner, yeah.
You're someone that goes to the gym. So you're now someone that takes their physical health seriously. Now meditation, someone takes their mental health seriously.
Yeah,
Framing it in that way, it sticks so much more than saying, oh God, I've got to go to the gym, or oh God, I've got to meditate, or whatever. You know, you can't imagine many people say, oh God, I've got to meditate, but
well, actually, the thing is they do, because it takes up time, and it's like one of those things you've got to sit down, you've got to quieten your mind, and when you've got loads going on, it's like quieten your mind is not the easiest thing to do. But yeah, it's becoming the person who does, rather than setting your goals high, because if you're not that person, you're gonna miss the goal.
But what everyone needs to do is a to-do list at the beginning of the day, so you have clarity on what your schedule is for the whole day. That I swear by my to-do list.
Daybook, absolutely cannot beat a daybook.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, every day. And also, small hack: don't scribble out the things you've done, because you
highlight it.
Highlight it,
celebrate it.
Always highlight. So the highlighters, it will release endorphins. That feeling of getting something off your checklist, but also you want to be able to look back at what you've done and make what day did I do that? And, you know, check. Another system, if you don't like highlight, because you can end up carrying around too much stuff. At one point, I had 3 books: a day book, a meeting book, and a. You know what? I won't give you too much detail. But there's one of the systems I was told is you could dot it. So your bullet point next to the work, you just fill it, color it in when it's completed.
That's what I do.
That's a God, man, the detail we get into on this podcast.
My Bible, you know, people take the mick out of me, but this is like without this, I'll be lost.
Oh, that's in my study. Don't you worry, Mohammed. That is there.
And that's why.
But then you
one of
can
the reasons
go
why you
over
three are
it,
good.
can't you?
Yeah, and it's good for you to catch up. You can see what you've done the last few days. It's just great. I think it's.
And even if you didn't do a transactional moment, you know you've done loads of tasks. It's quite fulfilling and motivational.
Yeah. It definitely is, especially in a low volume market. So if you're, you know, in the old days, if you're in a big team, you're used to seeing instructions and deals being done every day. But for instance, in our model, when we're building in a new area, it can be quite tough and challenging mentally to not see instructions coming in and deals being done. So get that sense of gratification from doing
activity.
That's why you 3 guys are exceptional at what you do, though. We all follow these simple rules. This is, you know, this is what we're doing, trying to help people follow these simple rules. Right, guys, good stuff. We are bang on time. In fact, we're a little bit early. That's refreshing.
Oh wow, that's never said in estate agents, was it?
It's odd. I don't know where to. Yeah, I'm surprised. Next up, we've got the sort of wrap-up piece where we each of you take it in turn. So we'll have your favorite agent you'd like to shine a light on. Tell us about someone brilliant. They could be in your world. You could be admiring them from afar. It's just a nice way of highlighting great agents in this industry. Your piece of advice. So what would you advise agents they need to be doing right now? Maybe it's something you're doing, something you're going to think about doing in the future, just something to help people move forward. And then just what's your outlook for the rest of the year? Completely about you, your area, whatever you want to do. It doesn't need to be national or large scale, just where you think things are going. So Joe, should we kick off with you?
Yeah, okay. So the agent that I admire is another Fine and Country colleague. Her name is Sarah Tuer, and she started her life last year. So like she's 18, 20 months into her role, and oh my goodness, she has taken her market and beyond so well. So we have Park Lane Associates, which is what I am. So I'm affiliated to Park Lane in my area, and then you can move on to have your own license and own your own area, right? So usually that takes a while to move from being Park Lane Associate to being to owning your own area. Sarah has an unassuming, take no prisoners. I'm not going to do fees. I'm not going to tell you lies. And she has slowly dominated her market. I mean, she won 3 awards at the our annual conference at the beginning of the year. She is now, not only she moved from being an associate, but she's now owns a license for Northumberland, and she owns a license for Newcastle. And she's had a lot of hassle from other people in her area as well, and she still continues to just walk with integrity and do her job with integrity and slowly dominate her market. She's brilliant.
She is brilliant. Obviously I'm familiar with Sarah's work because we're in the same network, but yeah, absolutely exceptional. Just, I mean, I don't give feedback normally because I know Sarah. What I would say, she's also doing things that other people have said that will never work, and it does. So, as a quick example, social media and digital, which, you know, the agents living in 1984 will tell you that will never work, but she's a great case study for how it absolutely does and will.
She's got leads and market appraisals and instructions from her social media.
One thing, Joe, you said her life began a year ago. I think you meant her Fine and Country life, but she's not one.
Younger than me.
Her Fine and Country life began a little bit before that because she worked for the guy who owned Northumberland.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Fine and Country as a self-employed agent started at the beginning of 2022. But prior to that, she worked for she knew Northumberland, absolutely, but there wasn't a lot going on until Sarah took over, which is amazing. So yeah, she's done really well. So your piece of advice for agents right now and your outlook for the rest of the year, please. So my piece of advice would be what I said earlier, actually, is ask, don't tell. We're all very much in danger of just pitching at people, both buyers and sellers. This is what we're doing. This is why we're so good. You know, me, enough about me. What do you think of me? That kind of thing. So it's like, actually ask the questions, because
you're meant to have a 70-30 ratio, aren't we?
Is it that? Yeah.
We talk 30 and the seller talks 70.
Absolutely. But it's like, ask the questions, and then in the questions they'll give you their reasons why, and then once you know your client, you can then pitch to that reason.
Ask more questions. I think if you ask the right questions, they'll do the pitch for you. You'll ask the questions.
And they've already read everything anyway. That's why they've called you out, I guess.
You hope, yeah. You hope. And going forward, so I don't think it's going to be a fast-paced market. I think we are now, as you say, with motivated buyers and motivated sellers. It's, if we price things right, we'll sell things. And yeah, I'm not anticipating we're going to be anywhere back to boatloads of buyers and sealed bids and anything like that. But it's we're back to, pre-COVID, pre-COVID and post-pre. I
feel like we're back to a sensible level, aren't we? Where people
back to a sensible level, but we're not used. But when no one's used to it, and this is when good agents shine. And yeah. So it's an interesting market, and one that is out there with motivated buyers, sellers, and estate agents, I hope.
Yeah, people have got short memories, because before COVID we were dealing with Brexit for a few years, which absolutely slowed the market. There's always something. People that conscious this normal market, and I would always say in 20 years I don't know what a normal market is. It's always moving in some sort of direction. There's always something going on. That's the game.
We've got an election next year as well, so that's gonna shake things up. So
there's always something. Your job is to deal with it. So as in our job is to deal with it. Alexandra, you're wonderful agent.
Oh, look,
That's
I
the
was doing
outlook.
my research. I'm always going to be championing another female because I think it's really important, especially for me, having worked in very much a male-dominated environment over my countrywide years and also in my leading local. So I was toying between Elwood was one, but I've actually decided on Steph Walker, our chief of staff, who I get to sit next to on our directors meetings, our estate agent directors meetings, and she is so knowledgeable and she's so inspiring and she's just so supportive, and what she's creating for me and for other partners at the agency is just phenomenal. I just think she's just great.
I'm a massive fan of Steph. Like, genuinely, her social media for me is some of the most entertaining out there. Because so she was on episode 1, and I described her as basically she's my mum 30 years younger talking on social media. She just doesn't care.
She's relatable.
Pardon?
And she's so relatable.
She's just very, very normal, very likable, but also quite spiky and not worried about being spiky. And that's what I really like, because I think because she's got such quality. Yeah, she just doesn't give a monkeys. But because she knows her shit, she can say that. You know, if a village idiot was posting some of her stuff, I'd be like, slow down. You haven't got the credibility to be posting this stuff. But yeah, I really, really massive fan of Steph. And isn't she just had just gone live with a new role? Now you've got a couple of
so she's now chief of staff, and we've now got a new operations manager moving in. So yeah, because we're
times.
Obviously it's exciting for us at the moment because we are expanding with our investment now.
And a couple of great non-execs now involved in the business. Really good.
Some good names.
And your advice and outlook?
I think my advice is for everyone, like when you are going to meet your clients, to be really well versed and well researched, so you're educating them. Spend time in that meeting, that valuation meeting, if it needs to be an hour and a half, to really well educate them, and then they'll see the value in you, and you can ask for that better fee. I mean, I have in Brighton, you can have 0.75, 0.5% fees. Okay, it's hideous. My average fee is 1.25%. But people understand the value of me because I've spent time with them, and I'll understand their motivation, their needs, and I'll also understand who they are as a family and what they're doing. I'm lucky enough to, be recommended, and most of the time that's how I've got through the door. But I am reassuringly expensive, as Richard Rawlings said to be.
Stealing lines from Stella Artois, but we'll let him off.
Yeah.
I mean, I completely agree. Imagine valuing a property and the consumer knowing more than you, which some agents get out there and they don't know, that haven't done their research, and the consumer knows that one sold and that one sold and that one sold, and suddenly you're getting schooled. And how are you going to justify a fee if you're not the expert?
Yeah.
And what's your outlook for the rest of the year?
I feel for me at the moment, I've still got a good amount of people registering, database of applicants wanting to buy. I think everyone's just got their head around the fact that mortgages are staying very stable. And a lot of buyers just want to get done now, especially right now. We've got a quick thing we can get in before Christmas. I love that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're just going to see stability, I think, especially in Brighton where there's a lack of inventory. Prices aren't going to suddenly spike because people can't afford it. However, they're not going to drop here because we've got a lack of new properties. You can't build on the downs and you can't build at sea. Mm-hmm. So we're holding our own at price.
Yeah, good.
You can go out to Lancing though.
Do I go out to Lancing? I don't personally go to Lancing, but
no, but you could. You could build out sideways.
I've got no idea what they're talking about. You got any idea what's going on?
He's going along the south coast to.
Going along the south coast. Yeah,
this is becoming the most niche podcast.
Not Brighton, Joe.
But yeah, I think you're right, Alexandra, that most people are coming to terms with what mortgage rates are right now, and they're stabilizing is really, you've used that word a few times. It's a great choice of word because things have stabilized. People are more confident and comfortable. Someone used the word the market feels optimistic. I think that's a bit extreme, but stable. I would absolutely agree with. Yeah, nice, lovely.
And I think when someone's buying their biggest asset, isn't it a bit nice that they have time to consider it rather than not even getting a second viewing and having to offer and having to rush? I think that made it so stressful for a lot of people. Really quite unkind, actually.
Unkind. Oh,
it was so tough. I was like, yeah, you're trying to buy a home, but you have more time to research a car than you do your own home.
there was
Or a dress.
A lot of
Yeah.
buyers regret,
So
wasn't
stressful.
there?
well, yeah, there's so they did the data in America. I haven't seen it for the UK, but Tom Ferry, really good. I talk about him all the time on this podcast. Really good coach in America. Lots and lots of really good content. And I remember listening to a podcast at the start of the year, and they talked about, I think it was in the 40 percentile number of buyers that bought in the last 2 years that were unhappy with their purchase because they were just forced into it. They had to move 100 miles an hour. Where the opportunity for the estate agency lies is they're going to move on.
Get the resale, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well-
you know, and there's a bit of that right now. There's a bit of resale opportunity. There's absolutely an undersupply of properties. More properties come to the market, but in most patches, no, not that statement. I won't say most patches. I don't know most patches. Certainly in our area, there's an undersupply, and that's propping up exactly like, sounds just like Brighton. So interesting times ahead. Mohamed, big finish. Agent, advice, outlook.
No pressure.
No pressure.
So I think agent-wise, I don't know her personally, but she's also what appears to me to be a strong, independent woman, and I'm championing that because I grew up with 3 older sisters myself, so I had no choice but
Good man.
to do that. So yeah, strong, independent women. And I've been around.
Mohamed, you are playing to the crowd here, man.
Yeah, he is. Absolutely.
Women like
Alexandra
Joe-
covered that. You don't need to cover that. Just, you know, be
Women like Joe Parker and Alexandra Hearn, of course. But no, for me, I think
wow, what an
stand
estate agent he is.
stand out like on social media and her online presence is Becky Fatemi. I mean, I think she does amazing work. I think she does so much charity work as well. And don't know her, but I know mutual friends, and everybody has such good things to say about her. She's from humble beginnings, and she's created this really unique, really, really bespoke kind of property service. And I think I just think she's great. I admire her from a distance. You know, if she's watching this, with pleasure, you can message me anytime. But I think she's just great. I think what she does is so like innovative, and she's just really unique at how she approaches it, and kind of inspired me to do my own thing in my own style too. So yeah, I think she's excellent. There's so many people though, like Hortons are great, Grant J. Bates is great. You know, there's so many unique things online which really get a lot of traffic and a lot of eyeballs just on the industry in a positive way. You know, there's so many negative things when people talk about property and agents, and there's usually not always good stuff. But this is a great positive outlook on it, I think, from these guys.
Nice. I don't know Becky, so I'll be following her now and seeing what she's about. Sounds interesting. Sounds good. Also, did you just use the podcast like Tinder a bit there? Was that, or you know, if you want to message me, Becky, you know, anytime you want. Is that what's happening right now?
No, I mean in a complete professional manner.
You want to message me, swipe right.
Yeah.
No judgment here. No judgment. No, fair play.
No,
It's a first on the podcast if it was. But so your piece of advice and your outlook, please.
So piece of advice, I think, is be brave, be confident, work smart, and don't hold back on hiring. I mean, I'll tell you a quick anecdote. I'm looking for somebody at the moment, and we thought we found the perfect person on Friday, and I narrowed it down to 2 finalists in terms of interviews. They were both so good, we've actually hired both. So we've managed to kind of move stuff around and get both people in, because I think they've just got so much potential, and they help our business hopefully get to the next level. But we have to be brave, and we have to take these calculated risks. And I think who you hire and who you have working on your team is going to be like make or break for any business, whether you're big or small. You know, staff is key, and staff retention obviously is key, especially given this difficult market where a lot of agents are exiting the market. Even young agents like myself who are now have been through a kind of a nice, you know, exciting period where we had difficulty with Brexit and stuff, but before that and after that, there was the boom during the stamp duty and you know, the freeze and things like that. So we've kind of seen it go up and down a bit. And a lot of agents are thinking, I'll just go and do something else now. But, you know, to retain people and to keep young people in the industry, that I think is important, is to give opportunities and offer incentives and do things with a fresh approach. And like I said, digital presence is huge, but also physical, you know, people and hiring well, I think is important.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. If you're in a position where recruitment is a thing, if you find great talent, if you find 2 great candidates, I would do exactly what you did and find a way to bring them both.
Yeah, it was impossible to make a decision. Honestly, it was. Like me and my business partner sat all weekend thinking, what do we do? But let's just do both. It makes sense.
Currency of quality right now is the people delivering the service. And you know, great independent agents, great corporates, if they've got great people, any structure, if you have good people, then the next couple of years could be really, really great. If you struggle to keep those good people, it is going to be tough. So yeah, completely agree. If you find great people, get hold of them and keep them. And what's your outlook for the rest of the year?
The outlook, I think touching on two things. I think technology-wise, I think AI and that kind of technology is going to be coming in a lot into property. And I think old school agents or people that have been doing it 20, 30 years might be like, I don't even know about it. And we'll cross that when we get there.
Hold on. 20 years. Well, yeah,
I'm
I'm so deep into AI right now.
Be careful who you're in the room with, hey?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. You can stay out of Chiswick.
No, okay. So people with the more old school outlook on things just be burying their head in the sand and not see that coming. But that is going to be a huge part of day-to-day life for us. You know, whether that means we're going to be calling an AI bot and managing our diary or booking valuations, who knows? I mean, it's quite exciting to see where that's going to go, and that's coming whether you like it or not. I think for the more immediate future is I think sales will remain slow because of mortgages, but there are some cash deals to be had, like we said. Good deals on houses, especially where people are willing to accept offers regardless of interest rates, because I think prices eventually will average out if you calculate over a 25 or 30-year mortgage term. For me personally, in my journey, I foresee myself, hopefully getting on more properties, doing more prop man stuff and development, with my respective landlords and clients, and hopefully working with more agents. I'm keen to work with local and far agents because I think that's how you build a database and network, and ultimately can offer a more refined, better service to your clients.
So Mo, you've done Tinder. You've done a bit of recruitment to let us know you're recruiting. Now you're doing the networking piece. You are using this podcast to the best of your ability.
Listen, it's an opportunity. You've got to grab it, right?
Fair play. Good man. That's exactly good for you. But I take AI, just to go back, 100% agree with you. AI it's not coming, it's here. I'm so deep into AI and how we can use it to streamline our business, automate the things that really don't need to be done, improve some of the human touch point pieces that could be... we could just go up a level, even in terms of content creation. AI is better than me. It's just that simple. So how can I use it? So you're absolutely right. But what I would say, anyone thinking about AI, it is a rabbit hole. I could spend the next 4 months looking at AI and struggle to make a decision. There's so much good stuff out there, but it's exciting, really, really exciting for the future. So look, guys, this has been absolutely wonderful. You've been brilliant. As expected, we've had nothing but perfect episodes up until now. So you've managed to maintain that level of quality, even though Mohamed used it for everything under the sun. Fair play.
I like value for money. Yeah.
Recruiting.
Proper agency. That's what I like to say. That's great agency. So all left for us is to say goodbye now, and we're going to hand over to Watkins for the weekly Watkins Whimsy. Thanks again, guys. You've been brilliant. See you all soon.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Take care.
Life is like beer. Make it too bitter and no one will drink it. Make it too sweet and you'll get addicted and you'll never move on. But find a balance and you'll just be sipping it forever.